the 9,845th meeting of the Security Council is called to order. The provisional agenda for this meeting is cooperation between the United Nations and regional and sub-regional organizations in maintaining international peace and security, League of Arab States. The agenda is adopted. In accordance with Rule 37 of the Council's Provisional Rules of Procedure, I invite the representative of Egypt to participate in this meeting. It is so decided. In accordance with Rule 39 of the Council's Provisional Rules of Procedure, I invite the following briefers to participate in this meeting. Mr. Khaled Khiyari, Assistant Secretary General for Middle East, Asia, and the Pacific, Departments of Political and Peace Building Affairs and Peace Operations. And His Excellency, Mr. Ahmed Abul Ghaith, Secretary General of the League of Arab States. It is so decided. The Security Council will now begin its consideration of item 2 of the agenda. I wish to draw the attention of Council members to document S 2025-39 containing the letter dated 16 January 2025 from the Permanent Representative of Algeria to the United Nations addressed to the Secretary General. I now give the floor to Mr. Khaled Khiyari.
سيد الرئيس معالي الوزير أحمد عطاف.
Your Excellency, Minister Ahmed Attaf, distinguished members of the Security Council,
To highlight our long and multifaceted cooperation with the League of Arab States, a key regional organization that will mark the 80th anniversary of its founding in March. I take this opportunity to congratulate His Excellency, Mr. Abul Ghaith, Secretary General of the League, ahead of this auspicious occasion. We meet today in the early days of the ceasefire and hostages release deal in Gaza. This critical and long-awaited agreement offers a ray of hope, a long overdue moment that provides much-needed relief for Palestinians in Gaza and for the hostages reunited with their loved ones. Egypt, Qatar, and the United States of America have all made significant efforts to broker the agreement. The United Nations is now doing its part to ensure the rapid scaling up of the humanitarian relief. We must all work together to ensure its success. In this regard, UNRWA must be enabled to carry out its mandate, as adopted by the General Assembly in all its areas of operation. We again commend the League of Arab States for its vocal support of this vital United Nations agency. The United Nations Secretary General remains deeply concerned about the continuing violence in the occupied West Bank, particularly the ongoing large-scale military operation in Jenin, which has reportedly resulted in Palestinian casualties. The League has always supported the Palestinian people, including through its efforts to rally international support for a ceasefire. The international community has a shared responsibility to support efforts toward a just and lasting resolution of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. A negotiated two-state solution remains the only viable path to ensuring peace, security, and coexistence for both Israelis and Palestinians. As Syria seeks to chart a new course following the fall of the Assad government, Special Envoy Pedersen continues his close engagement with the League and its member states to coordinate support for a Syrian-led and Syrian-owned inclusive political process based on the key principles of Security Council Resolution 2254. The United Nations stands ready to do everything it can to support the Syrian people to realize their legitimate aspirations. In Lebanon, the election of a president after a vacuum of more than 2 years and the appointment of a prime minister can pave the way to ensuring the country's security and stability. The United Nations stand ready to support the government of Lebanon once formed in its reform and reconstruction efforts. We also commend the role played by the League of Arab States in contributing to the cessation of hostilities between Lebanon and Israel through tireless advocacy and engagement. In Yemen, political progress has stalled amidst Houthis' attacks on commercial and merchant vessels in the Red Sea and on Israel. We hope that the ceasefire and hostage deal will lead to de-escalation in the region. Looking forward, the support of regional partners, including the League of Arab States, will be crucial to promote de-escalation, rebuild trust, and move towards United Nations roadmap for a comprehensive and inclusive political settlement of the conflict in Yemen. The political deadlock persists in Libya, and the fragile status quo risks being destabilized through unilateral actions. To help break the status quo, UNSMIL recently launched an inclusive intra-Libyan political initiative to take the country to elections. In this regard, the League is an important partner for the United Nations and is well positioned to rally and demonstrate collective Arab support for Libyan-led and Libyan-owned solutions to the political deadlock through the United Nations facilitated process. Finally, we remain extremely concerned about the situation in Sudan, which continues to deteriorate. The fighting is devastating the lives of Sudanese civilians, threatening the future of the country and impacting a region already based by deep fragility, conflicts and displacement. Diplomatic efforts must be intensified to finally bring an end to the conflict. Personnel Envoy Amamra is working tirelessly to support mediation efforts and promote dialogue to bring an end to the war. We commend the efforts of the League, including in bolstering multilateral coordination by convening the first iteration of the consultative group on Sudan in June last year. Mr. President, while the situation in the Middle East remains fragile and several key conflicts continue unabated, the ceasefire in Gaza, the cessation of hostilities in Lebanon, and developments in Syria together represent an opportunity for significant positive change in a region that has been in acute crisis for far too long. The extreme challenges across the Middle East come at a time when the international system has been struggling. Climate change, inequality, and other global issues continue to grow increasingly intense, often exacerbating the conflicts themselves or risking others being drawn toward disaster. In September last year, Member States came together to bolster our joint efforts to strengthen multilateralism and restore trust in our institutions. With the Pact for the Future, they reaffirmed the importance of the United Nations and called for a recommitment to international cooperation based on respect for international law. Our cooperation with the League, in line with Chapter 8 of the Charter, itself is an important aspect of implementing the Pact. As highlighted last July at our biannual United Nations League of Arab States General Cooperation meeting, our strengthened cooperation extends across all pillars. In this context, we look forward to the League's hosting of our 16th sectoral meeting on the theme of cooperation in the field of women's rights and child protection in armed conflict later this year. In recent years, the United Nations has supported the League on the Youth, Peace and Security agenda, efforts that have culminated in the landmark Arab Regional Youth, Peace and Security Strategy and work towards a draft action plan for its implementation. Implementation of the strategy is an important investment in the future of the entire region. In a region where young women and men constitute as much as 60% of the population, listening to their voices and offering them opportunities are vital steps that can help strengthen peace and stability. Mr. President, the League of Arab States was founded in March 1945, several months before our own organization was established in October of that year. We have since enjoyed a strong partnership based on robust cooperation for decades, and we see this continuing far into the future. We commit to continue our partnership with the League of Arab States to augment our joint efforts to improve the lives of people across the Arab region and beyond. Shukran, Sayyid Rais.
I thank Mr. Khaled Khiyari for his briefing, and I now give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Ahmed Abu al-Ghith.
شكرا معالي الأخ العزيز.
Thank you very much, dear brother, Your Excellency Ahmed Attaf, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, National Community Abroad, and African Affairs of Algeria. I would like to begin, Mr. Minister, to congratulate the People's Democratic Republic of Algeria on the assumption of the Security Council presidency this month. We express our deep appreciation for the role of Algeria as the Arab member in the Council, and I would like to personally here commend your initiative to convene this important debate under your presidency in order to promote the relationship between the League of Arab States and the UN Security Council. It is no secret that the Council's program of work contains many Arab issues, from the question of Palestine to the situation in Sudan, as well as Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Yemen, Somalia. We find that our concerns are one and the same, which requires us to intensify the cooperation between us in order to attempt to close open crises in the region, to promote regional and international security as well as justice. You also well know that the current phase witnesses a strategic global competition between major powers in the world, and this has reflected in the form of high tension inside the Security Council, which has unfortunately negatively affected the Arab issues addressed in the Council, at the head of which is the question of Palestine. It is important for the conceptual and operational framework of operation between the League of Arab States and Security Council to continue to develop. Based on the Council's historical legacy of addressing Arab issues, and also an investment of the Pact of the Future, which was adopted during the 79th session of the General Assembly, and which affirms the need to promote such cooperation, in particular during the current phase, which witnesses a reshaping of the multilateral international order, which is based on the United Nations system. On this basis, I would like to welcome the tri-party mediation efforts in reaching a ceasefire agreement between the Israelis and the Palestinians after 15 months of a war of genocide against the Gaza Strip. I emphasize here that the ceasefire is not a permanent solution, and that the basis for peace can only be achieved by the realization of the Palestinian people of their right to an independent state on the borders of June 1967, with East Jerusalem as its capital. The continued denial of this right is a threat to international peace and security, as we have witnessed during the recent months. A war that did not stop at the borders of Gaza or Palestine, but has spilled over, and its flames have reached the region. We look forward to the Council's encouragement of the Global Alliance for the implementation of the two-state solution, and the League of Arab States is proud to have participated in establishing this alliance together with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the European Union, as well as Norway and other peace-loving nations. We look forward to a greater role from the Security Council in this effort, in implementation of the Security Council's own multiple resolutions on the topic. Mr. President, I reiterate our congratulations to Lebanon on the election of President Joseph Aoun and ending the long months without a president. I also welcome the broad consensus on appointing Judge Nawaf Salam as Prime Minister in Lebanon. We look forward to a new beginning in Lebanon, one of stability, reconstruction, and revival of the economy. In this regard, we mention the need to preserve the ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel and extending this agreement through the strict implementation of Resolution 1701 and the full withdrawal of Israel from Lebanese territory and the deployment of the Lebanese army in the areas from which the withdrawal will take place. On the developments in Syria, the League of Arab States supports the will of the Syrian people and their aspirations to a better life after long suffering at the hands of the previous regime. I have appointed a mission from the Arab League Secretariat with a personal envoy of mine to visit Syria and to understand the new situation, and this has taken place on the 18th and 19th of January. We have distributed an integrated report on the member states of the League of Arab States in order to assist them in understanding the facts. We hope that Syria will undergo a successful transition that will pave the way to an end of the crisis without any foreign intervention, while preserving the Syrian unity, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. In this regard, it is important to warn against the Israeli expansionist greeds in Syria and the exploitation of the delicate moment. And I emphasize here the need to remain committed to the disengagement agreement of 1974 as the basis for the truce between Syria and Israel. And I emphasize that the occupation of the Golan is illegal and unjustified except by the expansionist desires of Israel, and this is in accordance with Security Council resolutions. Mr. President, the Arab League supports Sudan as it faces a war that is the most costly on the humanitarian level in the world. We support the unity of Sudan and its institutions, and we call on the Sudanese parties to end the military confrontation and to return to the calm and brotherly dialogue based on wisdom and patriotism, and in order to prioritize the interests of the country and its stability. And we emphasize that we continue to cooperate with the United Nations and the Secretary General's personal envoy and the UN agencies in the context of addressing the humanitarian situation in Sudan. We look forward to working with the Security Council in order to sustain peace and build peace in Sudan through restoring a calm in order to reach a complete settlement that fulfills the aspiration of the Sudanese people and that preserves their unity and sovereignty. We look forward to the support from the Security Council to our League's efforts, in particular in streamlining the peace initiatives and coordinating among them together with the United Nations and the African Union. In Libya, the Arab League looks forward to greater coordination by the United Nations in order to resume the political process as soon as possible. We also are working extensively and coordinating with the African Union and Libya's neighbors in order to unite the Libyan people under a single leadership. We look forward to the support from the Security Council of these efforts that aim to support Libya in order to end the complex political crisis without foreign agendas or interventions. The first step on this road is to appoint a personal envoy who is preferred to be someone familiar with Arab culture and Libyan tradition. The Arab League is also promoting its cooperation with Somalia in order to preserve its sovereignty and territorial integrity and to strengthen the efforts for sustainable development in a manner that respects the sovereignty of the Somalians. And in this regard, I would like to congratulate Somalia, whose membership of the Arab League is a source of pride for myself, and we congratulate them on their elected membership during the next 2 years in the Security Council. We reiterate that the League of Arab States will continue to support Somalia in order to preserve their unity and territorial integrity. Mr. President, the conceptual framework is an essence of our joint efforts to address global challenges that include pandemics and armed conflicts, terrorism and violent extremism, food security, water security, desertification, climate change, disaster risk reduction, and their reflection on the different segments within our societies. Our joint efforts overlap with the efforts of the United Nations. However, the situation requires greater promotion of our mutual visits with the United Nations, and we need to accelerate the next visit of the Security Council members to the League of Arab States headquarters after the last visit, which was in 2016, in order to hold extensive meetings with the League's Council in Cairo. And while the global attention increases in addressing humanitarian situations to alleviate the suffering of people in their suffering, in particular the humanitarian situation in conflict areas, the League is intensifying its efforts to support the Humanitarian Affairs Office of the United Nations in order to address the situations in Arab states such as Syria, Yemen, Libya, and Sudan. In this context, we would like to draw the attention to the risks and of the Israeli plans that aim to undermine the UNRWA and to eliminate its critical role, which is irreplaceable in the service of Palestinian refugees. The UNRWA is not only carrying out a humanitarian role, but it is a pillar of stability in the Arab region. Eliminating its role is a direct threat of this to this stability, and we look forward to a decisive role from the Security Council in defending this specialized agency, which is performing an irreplaceable and critical role. In conclusion, the League of Arab States looks forward to greater involvement in the settlement of Arab issues that feature on the Council's program of work through deepening the cooperation with personal envoys of the Secretary General in Arab conflict areas. We welcome the visits by some of the envoys to our headquarters always, and we also welcome cooperation in selecting the UN individuals who will lead efforts in the Arab world through resorting to Arab cadres who the Arab League can nominate in order to contribute effectively to the chances of reaching agreements that serve the interests of Arab people and states during this phase during which we face unprecedented challenges. Thank you for your attention.
His Excellency, Mr. Ahmed Abu.
Thank you, President. And Assistant Secretary General Khalid Khiari, thank you for your briefing. And we're pleased to welcome Secretary General of the League of Arab States, Ahmed Abul-Gheit, to this dialogue with the Security Council. The United States believes the League of Arab States can play an important role in addressing conflicts that affect its member states, particularly after the recent ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. We appreciate the tireless efforts of two Arab League members, Qatar and Egypt. Oh, and I also wanted to welcome the representative of Egypt to this debate as well. We appreciate the tireless efforts of Qatar and Egypt to help reach a long overdue agreement on a ceasefire to the conflict Hamas started on October 7th, 2023. The United States will help Israelis and Palestinians seize this moment together. But we also need our Arab friends and partners to step up and to use this moment to engage Israelis and Palestinians to show that a better, more peaceful future is possible. Building on the momentum from the ceasefire and hostage release deal in Gaza offers an historic opportunity to expand the Abraham Accords and promote greater regional integration. We look forward to working with members of the Arab League in this regard. We also have shared interests in pursuing stability and security in Syria and pressing Hayat Tahrir al-Sham to make progress toward an inclusive, non-sectarian political transition. The Syria that the United States would be inclined to support is one that lives in peace with its neighbors, respects the rights of minorities, and prohibits terrorists from using Syria as a platform. As Secretary of State Marco Rubio stated, it is in our interest to have a Syria that is no longer a playground for the Islamic State, respects religious minorities, and is not a vehicle through which Iran can spread terrorism. The United States believes other members of the Arab League beset by conflict also deserve a better future, including Yemen and Lebanon, countries that have been dragged into conflicts by Iran-backed terrorist organizations. And in Sudan, we appreciate the role of the Arab League in calling for humanitarian access, a cessation of hostilities, and a resumption of an inclusive political process. The United States will continue supporting the efforts of the Arab League and the United Nations to address the region's challenges. I thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, I thank Algeria for the initiative of convening this meeting. I thank Assistant Secretary General Khiari and Secretary General Gheit for their briefings. Strengthening UN's cooperation with regional and sub-regional organizations is a requirement clearly laid out in the UN Charter and a meaningful demonstration of multilateralism. Under the current circumstances, the League of Arab States represents an important platform for Arab countries to seek strength through unity and plays an ever more prominent role in regional affairs. China supports the UN to further deepen cooperation with the League in accordance with the spirit of Chapter 8 of the UN Charter and jointly promote peace and development in the region. Make every effort to stabilize the situation in the region. For over a year, the Middle East has been jolted by the eruption of several conflicts, and tensions have continued to escalate and spread. The priority now is to stop fighting and restore peace. Relevant international actors, including UN entities, as well as the SG's special envoys and special representatives, should strengthen their communication and coordination with the League and the wider Arab world in order to form synergy and promote de-escalation. We must commit ourselves to political settlement of hotspot issues. The international community should stay united and seek to resolve differences through dialogue and negotiation. The League of Arab States can leverage its strength of geographical, historical, religious, and cultural affinity to play a unique role in conflict prevention and mediation. The Security Council should attach importance to the views of the League and encourage regional solutions to regional issues. We must support the strategic autonomy of Arab countries. The international community should fully respect the historical and cultural traditions of Arab countries, support the League in playing a greater role in regional and international affairs, and support Arab countries in exploring development paths that accord with their national conditions. President, the question of Palestine lies at the heart of the Middle East issue. China welcomes the ceasefire reached in Gaza and appreciates the efforts made by the League of Arab States and relevant regional countries to that end. China calls on all parties concerned to earnestly implement the ceasefire agreement with a view to achieving a comprehensive and permanent ceasefire in Gaza. We express serious concern over Israel's recent attacks in Jenin. China supports initiatives guided by the principle of Palestinian-led, Palestinian-owned, and Palestinian-governed to build a coordinated post-war governance framework in Gaza and ensure unified and effective administration of Gaza and the West Bank. We commend the just position of the League and Arab countries on the question of Palestine and support the relaunch of the two-state solution based on international consensus, including relevant UN resolutions and the Arab Peace Initiative, to help the Palestinian people achieve independence and statehood as soon as possible. The situation in Syria is at a critical stage. We support Syria in maintaining unity, restoring stability, and promoting an inclusive political transition in accordance with the spirit and principles of Security Council Resolution 2254. China supports the United Nations in playing an active role in providing good offices and facilitating dialogue among all parties. Syria must not become a base for terrorism or be used by any terrorist forces to threaten the security of other countries. Syria is a member of the Arab family. China supports the important role of the Arab Ministerial Contact Group on Syria in facilitating a political transition and promoting reconstruction. President, China and Arab countries enjoy long-standing ties of friendly exchanges. The peace and development of Arab countries has always been close to our hearts. In May last year, President Xi Jinping, together with heads of state from Arab countries, attended the opening ceremony of the 10th Ministerial Conference of the China-Arab States Cooperation Forum. President Xi delivered an important speech on that occasion, identifying the overall direction and presenting a blueprint for the China-Arab relations development in the new era. The outcome documents adopted at the conference, including the Beijing Declaration and the Forum's execution plan for 2024 through 2026, reflected the strategic consensus of the two sides on major regional and international issues and deepened their practical cooperation in such fields as business, trade, investment, finance, infrastructure, education, health, and aerospace. China stands ready to work with Arab countries to accelerate the building of a China-Arab community with a shared future and make greater contributions to the peace and stability in the Middle East. Thank you, President.
Mr. President, Mr. Minister, we would like to welcome you participating, Mr. Minister, in today's meeting as the President of the UN Security Council. We'd like to thank the Secretary General of the Arab League, Mr. Ahmed Abul Gate, and the ASG, Mr. Khalid Khiari, for their thoughts and views. Russia has consistently focused on scaling up cooperation between the UN and the League of Arab States. Both organizations have the very same goals: to ensure peace and security on the global and regional scales. We are also governed by long-standing friendship and fraternal ties that bind us with the Arab world. Over the past year, many Middle Eastern states, unfortunately, have been affected by the turbulent events primarily caused by the marked deterioration in the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. This was succeeded by Israel's full-scale war against Lebanon, the dramatic events in Syria, the intense exchanges of fire between Ansar Allah and the Anglo-Saxon coalition as well. There are still hotbeds of instability in North Africa, in Western Sahara, Libya and Sudan. The complex socio-economic situation in a number of Arab countries is promoting radicalism and can lead to manifestations of extremism and terrorism. In this extremely explosive atmosphere, real hope for the situation stabilizing in the region is born by the agreement reached at the end of in January with the assistance of 2 member states of the League of Arab States, the agreement between Hamas and Western Jerusalem on a ceasefire and an exchange of hostages and detainees. We're convinced that the League should and can play a significant role in supporting this agreement and also in coordinating Arab countries in providing post-conflict assistance to the people of Palestine. It's important for a just solution to the Palestinian question not to be left out of any models proposed by non-regional mediators to normalize relations between countries of the region, because if not, repeated cycles of violence like the ones we've seen over the past 15 months will be unavoidable. From our side, we will monitor the implementation of the deal between Israel and Hamas, and we will support any initiatives aimed at an unconditional comprehensive ceasefire in the area of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict and on ensuring the safe and unimpeded humanitarian access and also the relaunch of negotiations on the broadly recognized international legal basis, including the decisions of the Security Council and the UNGA. In this regard, we note with concern that just 2 days after the agreement entered into force, the IDF started its large-scale military operation in Jenin in the West Bank. Just in its first few days, at least 10 Palestinians were killed and at least 35 people were injured. Of concern are the attacks in Tel Aviv, which injured 4 Israelis as well. We would urge the parties to refrain from any aggressive actions and provocations that might undermine the agreement. Mr. President, Russia is unswervingly focused on further gradual strengthening of the multifaceted cooperation we have between the League of Arab States and the UN under and pursuant to Chapter 8 of the UN Charter. Of particular importance is cooperation regarding collective security, countering new challenges, and crisis settlement in the region. Arab countries experience firsthand their problems in their region, using their invaluable knowledge and experience will help to facilitate the solution of problems and disputes without external interference, whilst respecting the interests of all interested parties based on the provisions and norms of international law. In 2019, the UN Liaison Office was set up in the League of Arab States headquarters in Cairo, and this is an effective channel for such cooperation. We welcome the annual informal meeting of the UN Security Council with members of the League of Arab States, which means that we can consider crisis situations in the region and discuss potential joint efforts on early warning. We support further fruitful dialogue between the League and the UNSC envoys in the Arab region to resolve crises and to find joint measures to resolve them. Given the unbroken bonds in the region, we deem it expedient to expand trilateral coordination between the UN, the League of Arab States, and the AU. We're convinced that the key to long-term and sustainable settlement of crises in the Middle East region and North Africa is reaching collective agreements with the active participation of Arab countries without the imposition of any blanket solutions from outside. The joint position of the League of Arab States on Gaza helped to create the necessary international climate to reach the agreement between Israel and Hamas. In conclusion, we would like to express our readiness to do all we can to facilitate a normalization of the situation in the region, both in our national capacity and in a collective format. Inter alia, through cooperation between the League and the UN, Russia will continue to strengthen its partner relations and cooperation with the League of Arab States on relevant international regional issues. We will assist coordination between the UN and the League of Arab States as well. Thank you very much.